So
Okay.
GB News is a TV station and a YouTube channel that started up, I think it was a couple of years ago now, actually. It's very, very right wing. And one
Yes.
of their main presenters, this guy called Dan Wootton, who
Yes.
is basically the kind of their figurehead for the war on woke. I mean, he's basically kind of a meme at this point because of...
Well, I mean, viewers may remember when the Queen died. By the way, can we get some lols in chat for the Queen still being dead? He filmed himself putting down flowers and then picking them up and doing different takes of him putting flowers down in respect for the Queen. So he's a virtue signaling bitch.
Yeah, absolutely, completely spontaneous flower laying for the Queen's death. They're showing the utmost of respect there. Considering, I mean, I am not a massive fan of the Byline Times, to be fair. I think they're pretty cringe in aspects, and especially the guy who runs it, who is basically, he seems to think the Russians are under his bed the entire time. He's basically like the liberal version of Paul Mason. Peter Jukes, that's his name.
Okay.
But there are good people who work at Byline Times. Adam Bienkov is really great. He's a Westminster reporter. He's excellent. Been really impressed with Adam Bienkov's writing. And for them to go through all of the kind of legal stuff that they need to do on the back of an entirely subscription-based model, it's impressive. Yes. It's impressive they managed to unearth this story, which really does need to be seen to be believed.
Yeah.
Which he's been, if you want to read through.
Well, I was just going to say, the context for this and the kind of horrific deliciousness is that the Sun newspaper put out this story about the person who turned out to be Hugh Edwards, the news reporter, basically saying, implying that he was the next Jimmy Savile. Turns out he was trying to solicit a 17-year-old for pictures, which is legal, so no crime actually took place. Creepy, but no crime took place.
No, I think he wasn't soliciting the 17-year-old for pictures, because that is illegal, right? Sending pictures of a 17-year-old is illegal. Having sex with a 16-year-old is legal. What it turned out was that they first started speaking when this person in question was 17, but at the time when he did ask for the picture, she had turned 18 at the time, is what I remember from the story, which is why he hadn't done anything illegal, just a bit creepy, which why it wasn't technically in the public interest.
Yeah, cringe, creepy, bad, but not illegal. But they obviously use this as a way to try and bash the BBC because it's an example of, vaguely socialist economics and culture working. Anyway.
And also, the GB News as an outlet, which is very similar in viewpoints to The Sun because it's owned by the same kind of coterie of incredibly rich private equity firms and or Rupert Murdoch, they were going really heavy on why this is the death of the BBC. Talk TV were doing exactly the same thing. And so it is poetic justice for this story about Dan Wootton to come out now, considering how he's basically because he's been there with GB News from the start. He's one of the faces of the channel, and it is very hypocritical of the kind of line that GB News have had over Hugh Edwards and Philip Schofield, them to now do this over Dan Wootton. And,
of course, many of the stories that have come out about him happened during his time when he was working for The Sun.
Yep.
And The Sun knew about it and protected him.
Yep.
Yeah. So, GB News star Dan Wootton unmasked in cash for sexual images catfishing scandal. GB News presenter and Mail Online columnist Dan Wootton hid behind fake online identities to trick and bribe scores of men. Oh yeah, he's a homosexual man. Into revealing compromising sexual material. Byline Times can reveal in the first part of a 3-year special investigation. Intriguing.
Well, it has to take 3 years. You've got to get the clearance for this kind of stuff, right? That's what I'm saying. So when you've got this kind of very kind of personal dirt on somebody, you have to get everything cleared legally, 100%, down to the absolute finest detail. Yeah. Otherwise, you could end up, having your news outlet, your newspaper, which is what technically this is, that could be ended overnight if you've not done the legal basis for this. So doing this off a subscriber-only basis is really impressive.
It is. The 40-year-old broadcaster and self-styled voice against, quote, woke culture, whose show Dan Wootton Tonight is the biggest ratings winner on the 4th most watched news channel. Nice bit of shade there. Targeted journalistic colleagues, friends, and members of the public for at least 10 years. Byline Times has extensive evidence to show that between June 2008 and 2018, Wootton, who is gay, posed as a fictitious show business agent called Martin Branning, seriously, to offer sums of up to £30,000 tax-free to his targets, many of whom were heterosexual men.
Yeah.
Among them are a very senior executive at Rupert Murdoch's News UK, alongside at least 6 other staff at the New Sun. I'm going to put quotation marks around newspaper. One with close links to new CEO Rebecca Brooks. Remember her from phone tapping, etc.
News of the World, yeah.
Indeed. employed. Friends, Facebook associates, and users of the dating apps Grindr and Gaydar, which I think might be for gay people, given the name.
And actually, speaking of calling the Sun a so-called newspaper, in the words of John MacDonald, you can't be a working for the Sun and a journalist. You can be one or the other, but you can't be both.
Regular McDonald W, that one.
Absolutely, very common McDonald W.
2 of the targets made criminal complaints to Scotland Yard without knowing the real identity of their tormentor, which with detectives aware of the activities of Branning, whose name is a portmanteau of EastEnders characters Martin Fowler and Max Branning. What the fuck? Oh, it's so weird. Oh.
I didn't even read that far. Fucking hell.
Well, that's why my online pseudonym is Vladimir Marx.
Love it.
It's very, it's subtle.
Subtle.
Since 2019, our journalists handed a 28-page dossier of evidence to the Metropolitan Police. Why would they care? Metropolitan Police love a bit of rape. They love a bit of fucking sexual assault and stuff. Why would they care?
We know full well, right? Remember Bastard Dave? Who could forget? Who could forget Bastard Dave?
For investigations on June the 20th, 2023. However, last week, criminal claims started to emerge on social media, with the posts rapidly attracting more than 18 million views, causing Wootton to trend on Twitter for several days. As a result, this newspaper is today publishing some details of our findings. We have identified 5 co-conspirators, along with a representative group of around a dozen victims. However, sources suggest the true figure extends to many, many more men. Byline Times knows the names of those involved, but in order to protect the victims and the course of justice, it will not be revealing them publicly. Wootton has been off air on GB News, on which he hosts a weeknightly show for 2 weeks, taking leave to visit his family who live near Wellington in his native New Zealand. That's right, everybody. He's an immigrant who wants to nuke boats or whatever. You know. He has been silent in the face of mass Twitter accusations, except to retweet promotions of his broadcasting return due at 9 p.m. tonight.
Did you see his life? Despite all of this, he's still showing his face, right? At least Hugh Edwards had the courage to decency, to remove himself from public life and get mental health help. He hadn't been sectioned or something. I don't know. That's what his wife had said, that he'd gone to like a compound to seek therapy. You think at least Dan Wootton would have the decency to get the fuck off the internet for a while.
Yeah. In his absence, the news channel has covered the money for sexual images controversy surrounding the BBC, and its lead presenter, Hugh Edwards, describing the story as a, quote, nuclear bomb, which is a fundamental misunderstanding of both news and bombs. Stand-in Mark Dolan, who I'm going to editorialise here and say was the shit and ineffective host of the comedy game show Balls of Steel.
He was indeed, right? My favourite thing about Mark Dolan as well is that he was incredibly vociferous in his campaigning for Remain, right? All over Twitter, you can find pictures of him wearing pins that say "I'm in" on them, and then suddenly gets offered a job by Legatum Institute and GB News, right? A very, very lucrative broadcasting gig for the news channel owned by private equity firms, pro-Brexit private equity firms, and suddenly he becomes massively pro-Brexit. What a weird heel turn.
Almost like he's literally sold his soul. Intriguing. Anyway, stand-in Mark Dolan told viewers on Dan Wootton Tonight, quote, "It's a bad day for Hugh Edwards as he battles for his health and the future of his career. But for the BBC, it's even worse," unquote. Dolan added on the 14th of July that this Hugh Edwards story is not going anywhere. At the time of Dolan's most recent comment, Byline Times investigators had already informed executives at GB News of the scope and veracity of allegations against Wootton, but the channel has continued to heavily promote Wootton's programme.
If you look right at GB News's channel and you just search in the search bar Dan Wootton groomer, the very first thing that comes up is him talking with Megyn Kelly, talking about how drag queen story time is grooming, and I'm like, I think you'll find catfishing people for sexually explicit photos is what that is, Dan, and not.
It's always
kids seeing drag queens.
Yeah, it's every accusation is a confession.
It always is. Always is a confession.
All right wingers are Nancy pricks.
Yeah, pedocon theory proved yet again. Of course, nothing here is involving children. I would like to say this is not explicitly pedocon theory, but it is definitely projection coming from the right in general.
Well, okay, groomer con theory. They're all mental. People who are obsessed with the threat of those things are obsessed with it in the same way that the only people obsessed with food are the incredibly obese or the anemic.
Yeah, 100%. The thing is that people will always say, well, you can't have, this thing, especially when they kind of, their thing about drag queen story is that it's men around children, right? You can't do this, right? And the reason why they do this, because that's what they have in their own head. They think everyone else thinks like them.
Yeah. During the established period of his activities, Wootton was initially an influential editor for Murdoch's News of the World before moving, once that paper closed in 2011 after the phone hacking scandal, to the Daily Mail. So from one pile of shite to another pile of shite. And then from 2013 to Britain's biggest selling tabloid, The Sun, which he edited its bizarre, that's the name of the thing, not that it is bizarre, showbiz column before becoming an associate editor. His career has given him great power and influence in British media and access to the worlds of television, celebrity and the monarchy, on which it is highly paid professional role to report. Tonight,
it's also worth noting as well here is that looking at his career trajectory, so this isn't some kind of dyed-in-the-wool right-wing ideologue. It's just a fucking grifter, right? He'll do anything for money. He'll report on anything. He doesn't care, right? None of this is anything he actually believes. He'll just say anything for money.
Yep. Tonight, a representative for Dan Wootton declined to provide Byline Times with an on-the-record response. It is understood that, so what did they say in private? I want to be a fly on the wall.
Well, definitely, me too. Also worth pointing out that he probably does want to do anything for money so that he can spend that money on catfishing men for sexually explicit photos.
Allegedly.
Yes. According to the evidence presented by Byline Times.
Exactly. It is understood that he strongly denies all allegations of criminality. The representative did not clarify when asked whether Wootton also denies being Martin Branning. Oh, that's his James Bond pseudonym. I love it. The next day, the profile was gone. Byline Times' evidence extends to an account of admissions Dan Wootton made to a trusted former colleague and friend in which, quote, during his many moments of crisis, unquote, he revealed his fear of being exposed as Martin Branning and the prospect of a pile-on of victims. Oh, yeah, you're the victim of the victims, are you? The right-wing love playing the victim, even when they're the perpetrator.
True.
Fuck me. Oh, no, the people I sexually exploited might come after me. Fuck you.
The small world's tiniest violin.
One victim, by the way, it would be fantastic if he broke out the ukulele. Oh, my God, please. Mr. Branning, please break out the ukulele. The toxic gossip train, New Zealand style. Boom.
It really is a Colleen Ballinger moment. It really is.
It is. One victim who is married with children told this newspaper that he was left in shock to receive a text from Branning offering him £10,000 tax-free in return for private work and to pose nude, adding that it felt like blackmail or entrapment. A second victim told Byline Times that Branning had sent him messages from untraceable numbers day and night, offering sums up to £30,000 in return for sexually compromising pictures and that sort of thing. By the way, does he not know that OnlyFans exists?
Yeah.
You don't have to pay 30 grand. If you just want to see some cock, you don't have to pay 30 grand.
Yeah, there's plenty of, illicit websites that you can do those things. It goes the same for Hugh Edwards as well, right? There are plenty of 18-year-olds just jumping onto OnlyFans. Not saying that I endorse going straight onto OnlyFans at age 18, but you don't have to pay £35,000. You can just pay whatever, $6.99 a month, whatever it is.
It just goes to show you the right wing do not understand economics because they are wasting a lot of money.
Well, no, that's the thing.
And being weird as fuck about it.
I mean, because that's the thing. None of this is actually about retrieving the photographs or sexual titillation or anything like that. It's about power. It's about enjoying the manipulation. If all they wanted was pictures of naked men or women, and in both of these people's cases, they could both have just gone on OnlyFans or Loyal Fans or whatever it might be to get those photos of some other person who they have no connection with. But they wanted to manipulate people, right? They want to be able to have that power, and that's where they get the thrill from. It's not to do with the actual material itself. Not saying that this is obviously me speculating on his motives, rather than saying that he explicitly does this or doesn't. But based upon what we've seen here, this is what I can only infer, what I can only extrapolate.
Yeah. And that sort of thing. The victim said he had uncovered, quote, a pattern of men who had worked with Wootton, unquote, being harassed with unsolicited malicious communications. Quote, it was all pretty much always the same thing, £20,000 to £30,000 for naked photos. Aren't you intrigued about who I am? This sort of stuff, right? Unquote. He said, adding that it was driving him insane and ultimately provoked him to go to the police with who sent a detective to his home to take a statement in 2019. A third victim, a former junior colleague who had been indicted, who was indicated that he was willing to speak to the police, revealed how on several occasions he received disguised calls with offers of work with a sexual context, and said it was pretty obvious that they were from Wootton. No, they were from Branning. Totally different
Branning.
person.
Absolutely.
A fourth victim, another junior colleague. Do you sense a pattern of power imbalance in this interaction? Anybody? A fourth victim, just a pattern of behaviour here. A fourth victim, another junior colleague, was contacted on Facebook by Wootton in 2009, where all the best sexual intercourse happens, posing as a blonde woman called Maria Joseph, who exchanged. Is that you playing as a drag queen, Mr. Wootton?
Yeah, quite. It's a bit groomy, isn't it?
Are you pretending to be a woman in order to try and trap straight men, Mr. Wootton?
It's incredibly Tati Westbrook, James Charles Beef-like, isn't it?
A blonde woman called Maria Joseph, who exchanged flirty messages before swapping images of an unconnected female face from reality TV in return for images of the colleague, who is heterosexual and today also married with children. Jesus Christ. Again, every accusation is a confession. The fourth victim said, quote, I received a friend request from a girl called Maria Joseph. Immediately, she was flirty, and having just come out of a messy breakup, I didn't have my wits about me as much as I should have. She soon started to send me semi-nude pics and swapped to email and phone. Her number was a New Zealand number, as she said she'd just come back from over a year over there. As more pics came through, she started to request them from me, which I duly obliged. Fortunately, I kept my face out of.
Oh my God, the New Zealand number is the funniest bit. That's so good.
It is good. It is good.
Adorable.
I mean, it's not quite as good as Jacob Wall starting that sting on, was it Fauci or whoever it was, from a number registered to his mum. That was genius.
It's a real tweeting out, thinking that you're coming from your sock puppet account moment.
Yeah, like the white guy saying, I'm a black transsexual woman and I believe X, Y, and Z. Yes.
Yeah.
Then she started to send ones she'd already sent, which she brushed off with, quote, obviously I'm trying a few guys at the same time, unquote. At this point, I'm being super careful and started to snoop further into her profile. Catfishing wasn't really a known thing back then, but I knew something was up. We had 5 friends in common on Facebook. Dan plus 4 others, which I clicked on the others. The only common link was Dan. Then a video came through of her having sex with a man. However, I recognized him as someone from a reality TV show, as he's a friend of a friend.
Okay, like how stupid do you have to be as someone who works specifically in entertainment journalism, commenting on the kind of reality TV kind of sphere, as you do as a columnist for Bizarre, right?
Yeah.
Then you must also think that all the other friends that you have in the industry must also be of similar kind of remit with regards to the kind of things they understand and what they know.
It's absolutely
people in the industry must know people from reality TV. How dumb do you have to be to not just use one reality TV show star, but two reality TV show stars that you've used in your catfishing saga?
No, it's fine. She sent a video through to him of her having sex, and she just happened to look a lot like Pamela Anderson, and the guy she was fucking looked a lot like Tommy Jones. It's fine, okay? They're just very similar, doppelgangers, you might say.
Yeah.
Anyway, where were we? Friend of a friend. This made me realise I knew the identity of the girl and that it could not be legitimate. So with this, the New Zealand number, the sole common denominator, I was sure it was him. So I messaged Maria to say, hi, Dan, interesting way to get dick pics. Oh, no. Rumbled.
Oh, incredible.
The next day, the profile was gone. Absolutely cool.
So I'm not saying that it's Dan Wootton, right? I'm not saying that it's Dan Wootton. It could theoretically be any Dan or anybody, right? Yeah. But, we don't have any firm proof. But, theoretically, there are precious few other people that it could be.
It could be former Liverpool and Fulham midfielder Danny Murphy.
It could exactly be that person. It could be ex-Conservative Minister John Selwyn Gummer. You never know.
Could be. Those, and I'll be honest with you, I've never seen those two in the same room. So, checkmate. I was embarrassed that I had not been vigilant. It makes my blood run cold as to how vulnerable I had made myself. I felt stupid, unquote. Byline Times is publishing today following a series of revelations made on Twitter by Wootton's former partner of 4 years, Alex Truby, in a thread of tweets which, at the time of publication, had attracted more than 15 million views. Mr. Truby said that Wootton gained unauthorized access to his social media accounts and email, leading him to suspect that he was being stalked. The intrusion became evident when Mr. Truby found his Gmail account was being accessed from an IP address at the News of the World office, where Wootton was employed at the time. Coincidence. This is all circumstantial evidence.
So it's just incredible just how like technologically impaired loads of these people are, that they just leave themselves open to this stuff, right?
Because they're all boomer brained. They don't understand any of this. They're just grotesque people who don't quite understand the world.
Yeah.
You know? Mr. Truby also told how while he was flat-sitting for Wootton in 2013, who was visiting family in New Zealand, he found a padlocked holdall concealed behind Wootton's washing machine, which he opened and found an external hard drive inside containing a secretly filmed video of an employee at the Sun engaged in sexual activity with their partner.
So revenge porn.
A man's a psychopath. He had a holdall. Right, so he had revenge porn in a holdall padlocked behind his washing machine. That honestly, they need to dig up his garden. They need to dig up his garden. They will find human remains. I almost guarantee it.
It'll be quite a moment.
A collection of people's left feet that he's been putting together for years. Oh. With the video, Mr. Truby described finding a transcript of an MSN Messenger conversation, which, by the way, dates it deliciously. MSN Messenger. Fucking hell. Conversation between the Sun employee's partner and Martin Branning. The quote, the MSN conversation was between the colleague's partner and someone called Martin Branning, whereby an arrangement was indeed made to make the sex tape in secret without his colleague's knowledge in exchange for £500.
So actual revenge porn, if this is true.
Yeah. But like bespoke revenge porn? Like you're doing fucking suggestions now? Yeah.
Okay. Bespoke revenge porn.
Yeah. He's doing requests for revenge porn. Weird. Mr. Truby wrote, quote, I knew instantly that Martin Branning was Dan, unquote. Byline Times has learned that before ending his relationship with Wootton, Mr. Truby confronted him over the contents of the holdall. Of the holdall? Sorry.
Holdall.
Hold all. Mr. Truby said that Wootton made a tearful admission of guilt, acknowledging he was the creator and controller of the pseudonym Martin Branning. Really? What gave it away? Byline Times has put the content of the story in its entirety to GB News, Mail Online, and the Metropolitan Police. After it was announced that Wootton would be fronting the regular GB News show at 9 p.m. this evening, Byline Times again approached it for comment, extending the deadline for a response. At the time of publication, no comment had been provided, which is interesting because they were very, very interested in commenting on the Hugh Edwards story.
Yes, very much so, yeah. And the Phil Schofield as well.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? A spokesperson for News UK said, quote, we have received an email from Byline this afternoon, which we are looking into. We are not able to make any further comment at this stage, unquote. The newspaper's dossier of evidence remains with the Metropolitan Police, gathering dust.
Yeah, almost certainly will gather dust. But it's interesting that at least the News UK decided to respond. I guess because they parted ways with Dan Wootton, that they're no longer responsible for him. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's not their thing anymore. Although they would still be liable as his employer at the time, I think.
It might be too long. I don't know. I'm not a legal expert, so I couldn't possibly, comment much further on that. But, they would probably have, if they have evidence of things being done on systems using like News UK systems, probably have to dig back and see if they've got any records of it, any kind of archives of messages sent, computers used, all that kind of stuff to comply with an investigation.
Yeah, and they never talked about the Darren Grimes stuff as well. Yeah, true. So again, all of these people going on about have the transes and the drag.
Please. Darren Grimes, please use his proper name.
Oh, Crafty.
Crafty Wank, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, apologies to Mr. Wank. Can I call him Crafty? I don't know him. That feels a bit too personal. I don't know him. So I'll just stick with Mr. Wank.
Mr.
Wank. Yeah, they didn't look into Mr. Wank either. But yeah, so whenever you hear these people going on about the transes and the drag queens being the groomers, know that these are the people who they actually are. It's every people who defend Andrew Tate. Exactly. Andrew Tate, Darren Wootton, Crafty Wank, half of the Tory backbench that we know of and half that we don't. They're all groomy Nancy, sexual assaulty, revenge porny creeps, all of them.
Yep, absolutely. Like I didn't read the whole article because I wanted to react to it on stream. I had no idea we were going to get like genuine reports from ex-boyfriends of him engaging in revenge porn, bespoke revenge porn, no less, paid revenge porn, right? At least paid money for it as well. Although apparently only 500 quid, 500 quid for, you know, bespoke revenge porn, yet 10 grand for just some pics.
Well, I was about to say, yeah, the person who did the revenge porn bespoke offer there is undercutting the business, the market of the unscrupulous revenge porn creators.
True, really true. He's clearly not getting his money's worth, getting swindled by Dan there. Sorry, Martin, who's his real name.
Yeah, Mr. Branning, please.
Mr. Branning, yeah.
Amazing story. I mean, I'll keep you updated if they ever acknowledge it happening. The police won't do anything because, again, if they arrested people who did weird sex crimes, they would have to arrest every police officer.
Yeah. So, all the police officers, all the politicians.
If they started arresting like domestic abusers and rapists and stuff, the police would just be an Ouroboros of humans arresting each other constantly,
arresting themselves. Because I'm sending myself to jail.
Yeah, exactly. They have to handcuff themselves and march themselves into a police cell.
Yeah, very true.
Anyway,
well, there you go. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. It does help out the channel and the algorithm. And if you click the bell notification icon, it will let you know when I go live and when I upload videos. If you'd like to follow me on social media, my handle is @NoJusticeMTG, and that is Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. If you want to support my channel in a more financial manner, you can do so by becoming a member for just 99p, by super chatting, or by supporting me on Patreon, with the link is in the description of this video, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next segment.